Hi, my name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director of the Illinois Principals Association. It is a pleasure to have you joining me for this IPA talk, and it is a pleasure for me to be joined by our Illinois State Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Carmen Ayala, as we get ready to get started with the 2021-2022 school year. So, Dr. Ayala, first, just thank you for being with me. Sure grateful for that as always, and just speaking on behalf of the 6,000 plus members here of the association. We're grateful for your service and leadership while we continue to deal with an extraordinary time. I think all of us could say that by now we were thinking we'd be in a much different place, but viruses and pandemics and things kind of have their own way of dealing with the world, and so now we have to kind of contend with that, or not kind of, but contend with that as it is. But before getting into some of those COVID-related things in particular, I'm just going to throw it to you and just see if you got any quick thoughts here as we get started with this school year for people.
Well, thank you, Jason. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you and to just have a dialogue. One of the things that I wanted to say is that I really am glad to be here talking to some of my favorite people, right? Educators and school leaders on the front lines of educating and caring for all of our Illinois children. As principals, you're bearing a lot of the brunt of this scary, tumultuous time because you're responsible not only for your students, but also your teachers who have had their jobs change in ways that they have never expected. And I know that you're staying cognizant of what they're doing through and providing supports to help them through it. August has always been one of my favorite times of the year because it's when we welcome our students back to school. It's an exciting time. We get to see how much they've grown and changed over the summer, although this opening is, again, going to be a little bit different. And everybody feels nervous and will be nervous, and at the same time, a little giddy about starting the new year. And I'm so just glad that all of our schools are really looking to bring all of our students back in person. And, for those schools that are returning fully in person for the first time since 2020, this year is going to feel a little different because we will have some key new protocols, thanks to COVID-19. But it will also feel more special because being together in our classrooms is an experience we no longer automatically take for granted. So there's just some opening comments that I wanted to make, Jason, regarding this time of year.
Yeah. Well, I sure appreciate your sentiments with regards to that. And my role here at IPA aside, I'll just put my parent hat on. I can tell you, my wife, Ashley, and I, we were excited to get our kids back to school for a variety of reasons. One, we're just, we look around our home and are like, wow, we got some work to do here because those kids have spent a lot of time in our house, more so than they normally do over the last 18 months or so. But more importantly, our kids here over the last couple of weeks, they go to the Ball Chatham School District here south of Springfield, and they're getting their schedules now. They're learning who their teachers are. They're taking a look at what their classes are going to be, and they are really excited. There's a little bit of that, I got some work that I'm going to have to do, but we're grateful for our district and everything that they're doing to be ready to go despite the challenges that we still face. So for what that's worth, I'm sure a lot of parents out there, for the most part, are really glad to see their kids getting back to school. So kind of eating the frog, as the saying goes here, just kind of out of the gate. I know the day of this recording is August 11th. You guys have issued just some additional guidance and reminders for school districts as we look to get back to school related to the governor's executive order. And I think all of us can agree upon the fact that we really don't want to be in the position that we're in right now with the pandemic the way that it is. But it is what it is, and we have to still contend with that. And we could go on and on here about this, that, and the other, and the rationale for why we need to do what we need to do. But so I don't want to necessarily spend an inordinate amount of time, but I just thought I'd quickly, Dr. Ayala, give you an opportunity to share anything, from your perspective as we try to finalize details for getting started back to school here here over the next few weeks or so.
Absolutely. You know, we can safely return to fully in-person learning by following the guidance from the Illinois Department of Public Health and the Centers for Disease Control. Most importantly, getting vaccinated, and provide opportunities for your eligible students, staff, and families to get vaccinated as well. Your local public health department can help you come up with strategies, and we have an FAQ, a very recent FAQ that has been posted that provides some helpful scenarios. The bottom line is that vaccination is the key to ending this pandemic. I got my vaccination as soon as I could. Next, I hope, as you've heard, face masks are required indoors for everyone in schools, vaccinated or not. These need to be worn consistently and correctly, covering the nose and the mouth. There are exceptions for children who are napping, for students with certain disabilities, and for meal times. Other important tools will be testing, contact tracing, and quarantine. The state of Illinois has made both Shield and the Binax Now test available absolutely for free. Mm-hmm. Fully vaccinated people will not have to quarantine, though they should test 3 to 5 days after being in close contact with a person who has a confirmed or a suspected case of COVID-19. And there will be a test to stay option, which should close contacts continue to navigate in schools. I know we've been hearing some pushback, and I completely understand that going from local controlled over masking to a statewide mask requirement, it's frustrating. I understand that. But we have to do whatever it takes to keep our students in school safe. Principals saw firsthand how remote learning damaged our children, you know, from mental health crisis to childhood obesity, going up to academic struggles. Our children need to be in a school, and masks are the simplest, the most effective way to keep students in school and safe. Masks work best when everyone wears one. And this is where the partnership of principals becomes important. Communication is key. Communicate with your students, your staff, your families, your teachers about why wearing a mask is crucial to keeping schools in person and to keeping our students, loved ones, and communities safe. I know that masks are sometimes uncomfortable, but so are football helmets and seatbelts. And we can all agree that sometimes protective measures are necessary to keep our children safe. Now, schools have been safe so far because schools have implemented safety measures so well. But we don't put away our umbrellas because we're not going to get wet. We have to keep our umbrellas up until the storm passes.
Well, what I'll tell you, again, from my own personal experience here with kids at every grade level this last year, while no doubt they would have preferred not to be wearing masks, they really did okay with it. And speaking with school leaders across the state this last year, you know, the kids generally, by a wide margin, did fine with that. And, you know, when people say, where's IPA? You know, our position has been from the beginning that we agree with making sure that schools comply with any health, life, safety requirements that are put forward for a variety of reasons, but most importantly, to make sure that we protect everyone involved, the kids, you know, the schools generally, and our school leaders as well. And so we feel like that's really important. And for what it's worth, I've been vaccinated too, and so have all my kids, my wife that are eligible. And so hope that people will definitely consider that. I know that's a real personal consideration, but it definitely would be helpful to get us out of the pandemic and everything like that. So thanks for your thoughts there. And I want to pivot on a little bit, you know, with regards to continued supports for schools when it comes to helping kids, you know, get back to school, deal with some of the concerns that we've got from the experience that they had this last year, particularly, you know, you talk about spending a lot of time in remote learning, whatever, where that goes. And by the way, with the Shield testing, we did an IPA talk with that some time ago. So we'll make sure to relink to that so people can learn about that testing. But Dr. Ayala, you know better than anybody, because I know you guys are contending with this on a daily basis in the agency. You know, we've had a large influx of dollars that have come in to support schools a variety of a lot of work has been done trying to provide schools with various ideas of things that they can be doing to help kids right now. Just curious if you could shed any light on for us just on what's happening right now with the agency with regards to dollars as well as other supports that are available to schools.
Absolutely. Fortunately, the federal government has provided generous funding to support our students as we emerge from this pandemic. And when you tally up the 3 ESSER grants, more than $7 billion is available directly to our schools. ISBE has gotten a share of the total and targeted a huge share of our funds, more than $85 million, towards closing the digital divide. With significant progress being made toward that goal, we are also focusing funds on learning renewal in alignment with our strategic plan. For example, we invested $4 million in a resilience education pilot program in partnership with Lurie Children's Hospital Center for Childhood Resilience. Through this program, all educators in Illinois have universal access to a virtual learning community that provides online training on the impact of trauma, the intersection between race and trauma, crisis response strategies, and school-wide trauma responsive policies and classroom practices to build resilience among our students. And so far, more than 5,300 individuals have accessed this virtual training. And that means that students are already seeing the results of this training in new practices and mindsets in the classroom. We're also developing 7 culturally responsive social emotional learning wellness hubs. And we're very excited to share more information about this once we get close to that official launch. The goal for the hubs is to help districts complete a social emotional learning mental health needs assessment, develop an action plan, and provide the resources necessary to support those identified needs. We piloted this model with about 50 schools this past year, and some of their focus areas will guide the services that the hubs offer. We have additional grants coming that principals should be on the lookout for, and these include a social emotional learning and trauma response grant to fund community partnerships, a teacher mentoring and mentoring principals grants, and high impact tutoring grants to help students renew learning they may have missed over this past year. In addition to the federal funds, your districts will be receiving their evidence-based funding formula allocations, and those calculations are currently available online.
Yeah, that's great. A lot of resources are sitting there available right now. And as we've talked with people about this, we highly encourage them to access everything that's available, spend dollars wisely and within the framework that's provided, and be sure to spend every dollar that's available, because it's not often that we receive these kinds of resources, and we need to let people know that it is needed, right? Because we'll probably need to go back and ask for some more at some point in time.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to that, Jason, is that we do have an end to when these resources are going to be available. And so we need to be careful that we don't create a cliff, and we try to embed and create sustainability so that we're not caught in that situation.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, and I'd be remiss if I didn't quickly emphasize, you referencing supports for school leaders, mentoring supports, and we know that the General Assembly also put an allocation in for supporting the development of the principal pipeline and things, and just grateful for your support and the agency's support in getting those things off the ground and moving forward. So we're sure glad for that, because it's no doubt it's needed, not just in this time, but really at any time. Well, one thing I'd like to do is pivot briefly to maybe something that we would talk about in normal times, not just in times right now, but work that the state board has been doing. And I've seen this in your updates here recently. And I was telling you before we got the recording started, something I've even shared with my 2 oldest kids that are high school students. But you put together a new Illinois high school to college tool that's a web-based tool that I found pretty interesting. So excited about that, and just curious if you wouldn't mind providing just a little bit of insight in what's happening with that.
Well, it's being launched. It is now available, and it is accessible through our website, through a link on our website. It was a partnership projects as well with our institutions of higher ed, which is very important. But it's an exciting tool, and I think it's going to serve our high school students well in exploring all kinds of things to look for in their post-secondary journeys. So that's really exciting. And again, it's live, they're ready to go.
Well, and what I appreciate about it, I know some school districts out there use tools like career cruising and other things, but not every student, depending on the capacity of their school, has access to something like this. And so, when we talk about trying to provide equitable opportunities and resources for kids, I felt like when I looked at that was really key here for ISBE working with the higher ed institutions to be able to provide something like this. So that's outstanding. Just generally speaking, Dr. Ayala, any just other 21, 22 priorities for the agency? I mean, I know it's hard to even put our heads there because we're dealing with the continued immediate urgent of the pandemic and recognize that is a bit draining for all of us as we sit, get on the Groundhog Day hamster wheel here and keep at it, trying to use two metaphors at once. But anything else that from your perspective is exciting work that the agency has going on?
Well, Jason, our first priority continues to be the health and safety of our students and our school communities. We have all fought so hard to get to this point where we can return to full in-person learning. And we want to preserve that opportunity for our students because we know that's the environment in which they learn and grow and they can get to their fullest potential. So that is definitely on the forefront. Our other priorities are clearly laid out in our strategic plan. In spite of, everything that the pandemic has provided opportunities for us, we have held steady and kept the focus on our strategic plan as well. And that has helped us to maintain some focus in the midst of this turmoil. Student learning conditions, and elevating educators. These remain our top priorities with the overarching goal of increasing equity. And so we'll be hearing more about equity in the coming months. But right now, our focus is getting school open and making sure that things are running as smoothly as possible.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that, Dr. Ayala. Thanks for you spending a few minutes while I know you've got plenty going on here. Grateful for your leadership and for what you're doing for our kids. So my name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director of the Illinois Principals Association with our Illinois State Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Carmen Ayala. Let me just make a quick comment here to you school leaders. Do not forget you matter. Your leadership is so critical right now, and be encouraged by that. And I know it's unbelievably difficult, continues to be, but it's that hard about the job that makes it so great, meaningful, and will be remembered for quite some time. This stuff's going to end up in history books, no doubt about it. If there's anything, right, I would hope so. It sure deserves to be. But my name is Jason Leahy again. If there's anything that IPA can do for you, don't hesitate to give us a call or check us out on the web at www.ilprincipals.org. Take care.